A lot of times I hear people talking about racial dynamics in the United States, and there's often a confusion about what certain terms mean. When we are talking about majority and minority cultures, this is not a value judgment. This is a numeric statement that there are majority means there are more people, a larger population than the minority population. It is smaller. That's all it means. And in human affairs, it's really, really important to remember that usually the group that has the most people, the culture that has the most people, generally sets the rules that the minority cultures need to adapt or adopt. This is not a racial thing. It's not an ism at all. It is just the nature of how humans are all around the world and always have been. Every race of people can be the majority culture. Every race of people can be the minority culture. Depends on where they are. Let's explore this a little bit, and let's make it a little bit easier and kind of get out of this sociological framework. Let's talk about it in terms of the cookout. In Black culture, the cookout is a metaphor for being included in the in crowd, right? If you get invited to the cookout, then you're good. If you don't, there's a problem, right? There's something going on if you don't get invited to the cookout. You can't hang. You can't drop into the vibe. You can't help us get it lit, whatever. If you're not invited, all right. Now let's imagine this Black cookout. It's a fine summer afternoon. We're out in the park. The grills are going. The ribs are cooking. The music is playing. What kind of music do we hear wafting through the air on this fine afternoon? We're going to hear Black music that Black folks like to listen to. Yeah? Why not? It's their cookout, it's their barbecue. You pick what you want. We set up the vibe that we like to have. We're going to have the food we like. We're going to have the music we like. The kind of dances we like. We're going to set this joint up the way we like it. It's our culture, right? Now, what if a white person gets invited to the cookout? It happens every once in a while, right? Let's say there are 100 Black folk at this cookout. And let's say 13 white folks get invited. 13%. And they show up and they say, all right, who's the DJ? We've got our playlist. We want to hear our kind of music. And I know y'all like doing this barbecue, and I know like you kind of had your menu, but we brought some of our own stuff, the stuff we like. We brought some potato salad with raisins and pine nuts. How about that? Instead of doing the electric slide, we want to do some buck dancing. Why don't we do that? How would that work out? How would this minority group, this small white population, be perceived, and how open to those requests would the majority population be? I don't think it'd be very receptive. I think there might be some, we'll listen to a little bit of that music, but we're not going to just change all the music just to be the way you want it to be. It's our party. It's our cookout, our culture. You're a guest here. And there are fewer of you than there are of us. So kind of majority rules. Yeah, I'll taste a little bit of that nasty ass looking potato salad with raisins you got, but we're not gonna give ours up. And I think we're just gonna pass on the buck dancing. We'll just it's gonna be electric slide and whatever else we want to do. So thanks for the suggestion. Do you feel what I'm saying? At a certain point, the majority group gets to say, yo, it's our cookout. Okay, so you're a welcome guest, but it's our joint, okay? And that's a lot of the way that it works in the United States with a majority population. It has always been the majority population, white folks, and a minority population that has always been a minority population, black folks. Now, all y'all know I love all y'all, and I don't mean to leave out my Asian and Latino brothers and sisters, and I know I always do. But this is just the way my mind kind of has processed it forever, and so I will work to improve and be more inclusive, but this is the way my mind generally breaks things down. It's where the biggest fire is, in my opinion. So the challenge is that black folks don't feel like they're such a small percentage of the population. Black culture is highly, highly visible in American society, American culture. Black folks have a disproportionate influence. For such a small, relatively small population, they have really big optics. They are very present. And it distorts the way, it distorts the reality of the actual population numbers. And I think that black folks are often surprised that there's no way we only have that many people. We're all over the place. Well, that's part of the problem, is just that distortion. And yes, you're all over the place. Part of that has been a cultural fashion over the past few years, and part of it is just because y'all have an aesthetic that makes things pop a little bit more. And at least in marketing and commercials and advertising, it brings a little extra flavor and a little extra color and interestingness to advertising that makes the advertising more effective sometimes. So there's a bit of exaggeration that's kind of built into it as well. But it's still important to recognize that beyond the optics and what it looks like, the reality is the numbers are the numbers. The reality is there is a dominant culture that has more people and it has more influence. It sets the rules. It sets the Lego architecture that we talked about. It conceived and with the help of everyone in this country, built it out, but it is a very Legoized kind of infrastructure culturally. Education, government, military, commerce. And so that often feels for black folks like a fish out of water with a Plato kind of mindset. And why can't it be more this way, right? Well, it can. It's just a big hill to climb because numerically, the influence of a larger population prefers to have this kind of Lego approach. And as I mentioned in the Plato versus Lego video, the best way to take advantage of the opportunity here is not to wait for the majority culture to adapt to you. The shortest distance between 2 points is you adapting to the extent that you feel comfortable, if at all. You may not wish to adapt at all. But to the extent that you do feel comfortable and are willing to adapt, there is a direct and positive relationship between your adaptability, your assimilation into this more majority kind of cultural framework, the upside for that financially, materially, and I would say just a sense of belonging is improved when you approach things that way. I never want to suggest that people have to do anything. You have your own sovereignty to make those kinds of choices. But just be aware of the consequences of these choices. That if you choose not to participate in the majority culture's ways of doing things, then you're never going to kind of drop in. It's a lot like music. We have a thing in music called sitting in. If you go to a jazz jam on a Sunday night in a jazz club somewhere, there's usually going to be a host band, and then there's usually an open mic, and people get to come up, guitarists and saxophonists and singers and all kinds of people get to come up and sit in, play with that band, the house band. The house band happens to be the majority culture, okay? It's their gig. They generally pick the repertoire. They generally are going to play the kinds of arrangements that they like. They're the majority culture on that stage in that club. If you, as a minority participant, want to sit in, you don't get to come in and just totally make up, the way the song is going to go. You need to kind of figure out what the tempo is. You need to find out what the feel is, agree on what the structure is, how many bars you're going to get. And you have to fit into that larger majority culture on stage. You get to do your thing. You get to blow that solo the way you generally want to do it, but you need to be contextually aware, situationally aware of the situation you're in. This is the house band's cookout, and you are a guest, so you need to adapt. Does that help at all? Sometimes I feel that Black people get very, very disappointed that this country isn't to their liking, and people aren't just kind of doing things the way Black people would like them to do. It's an interesting perception. I understand it. I guess everybody would like the world to be the way they like it to be, but there's also the reality of the way things are. And just numerically, it's just there's a larger population of white folks, and it may not always be that way, but for the moment it is. And those are the majority-minority dynamics. Just something to keep in mind as you keep on moving through this world. All right, peace.